The stars glimmered cold and distant as the Erebus 7 research station orbited silently above the barren planet below. Its metal hull reflected the dim light of a nearby dying sun, and inside the corridors were quiet, almost too quiet. For years, the station had been a hub of human exploration, sending probes and analyzing minerals and gases from planets humans had only dreamed of reaching. On the surface of the nearby moon, the once thriving human outpost lay in ruins. Smoke curled from shattered buildings and jagged metal scraps littered the ground. Alien footprints, deep and deliberate, marred the dusty surface. The Rakons, a species as tall as humans but far more imposing, stalked across the outpost like predators surveying a weakened herd. Their skin was a dark, shimmering hue that reflected the faint moonlight, and their eyes glowed with a greenish intensity. To them, the humans were gone. The battle was over. Victory was theirs. Captain Rilcor, leader of the Rakon scouting party, raised a clawed hand and signaled the others to spread out. "Search thoroughly. There must be more," he growled. His voice vibrated in the silence, a low, commanding rumble. But even as he spoke, a flicker of doubt passed over his mind. There were no bodies of command officers, no organized resistance. Nothing. Only the wreckage. The Rakons moved cautiously, their advanced sensors scanning every corner. Broken equipment glowed faintly, and the air smelled of burnt metal and dust. One of the scouts, smaller and quicker, moved ahead of the others. Its sensors swept the ground, picking up faint energy traces. "Nothing yet," it reported. But then its head tilted slightly and its mandibles clicked in alarm. A flicker, a tiny, almost invisible movement, was detected beneath the rubble. Rilcor's eyes narrowed. "Investigate," he commanded. The scout carefully approached the wreckage, its limbs moving with cautious precision. With one swift motion, it lifted a piece of debris. Beneath it, a human figure lay motionless, covered in dust and blood. The scout's sensors flared. Life sign, very weak, but alive. The other Rakons gathered around. They stared at the small, frail human lying barely conscious, its breathing shallow. The aliens' faces twisted in a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. They had believed all humans were dead, and yet, here was proof that one had survived. The human, Commander Alex Ryan, did not move. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with dirt and blood. Every breath was a struggle. He had been trapped under a collapsed wall after the initial attack, and the aliens had assumed his outpost was empty. He had survived on instinct alone, moving only when necessary, hiding when the Rakons passed too close. Rilcor crouched slightly, studying the human. "It is weak," he hissed. "It cannot fight." One of the younger scouts shook its head. "Perhaps, but all humans are unpredictable. I have read of them. They survive the impossible." Rilcor snorted. "We do not fight ghosts, leave it. Take the data cores and prepare to return." His confidence was unshakable. The human posed no threat. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, Alex's eyes fluttered open. He could barely see, but he could hear the alien voices. Every sound made his muscles tense. Every movement of the Rakons above him sent a jolt of fear and determination through his body. He knew he could not stay hidden forever. The outpost was too small, the aliens too many. But he also knew that giving up was not an option. Slowly, painstakingly, he shifted his body under the debris. Pain shot through him with every movement, but he ignored it. His training took over. Years of survival drills, combat practice, and strategy filled his mind. He thought of his team, of the humans scattered across Erebus 7. They had to be warned. They had to survive. He spotted a small supply crate nearby. With great effort, he dragged himself toward it, using it for support. Inside, he found a few tools. A small plasma cutter, a handheld scanner, and a few rations that had survived the destruction. He didn't have the strength to wield the plasma cutter effectively yet, but the scanner could help him track alien patrols. Every piece of equipment was a potential weapon, a tool to regain the upper hand. Above, the Rakons began collecting data from the destroyed outpost. They were confident, almost careless. Rilcor's crew worked methodically, scanning terminals, extracting information, and marking the site for retrieval. They had not expected resistance. Alex listened to their patterns. He noted which aliens moved together and which moved alone. He counted the intervals between their patrols. Every second was critical. He had only one chance to survive this night. Hours passed. The moon's surface grew colder as the sun set on the distant horizon. The Rakons continued their work, oblivious to the human hiding beneath the rubble. Alex's body ached, but he forced himself to stay still. His mind raced, planning his first move. The aliens thought the humans were broken. They thought the battle was over. But humans were nothing if not unpredictable. Finally, a plan formed in Alex's mind. He would not confront the Vrekkans directly. He would not rush blindly into danger. Instead, he would use their overconfidence against them. One by one, he could disrupt their systems, sabotage their technology, and send a clear warning. Humans were not defeated. He began gathering small pieces of metal and wires from the rubble, improvising. With his limited tools, he started creating rudimentary traps, devices that could trigger alarms or explosions with minimal energy. Each piece he constructed was slow, deliberate, careful. He could hear the Vrekkans moving, their steps heavy against the metal floor, their voices low but confident. Yet he felt a spark of hope. "This is not over," Alex whispered to himself. His voice was barely audible, but it carried a weight of determination. "Not while I still breathe." The night grew deeper. The shadows stretched across the ruined outpost, and the Vrekkans began to rest near their temporary command post. They had no reason to suspect the human beneath the rubble. Their confidence, their arrogance would soon become their weakness. Alex's breathing slowed as he focused. He allowed himself a single thought: patience. He could not afford mistakes. One wrong move could end everything. But with careful timing, he could turn the smallest advantage into a weapon. Above him, Rilkor finally addressed his team. "Prepare to leave at first light. We have all we need. Humans are finished here." The words stung Alex, but they also fueled him. Finished? They had not even begun to see what a human could do when cornered, when desperate, when left with nothing but instinct and will. As the Vrekkans rested, Alex's eyes scanned the ruined outpost. Every shadow, every corner, every piece of debris became part of his strategy. He studied the weak points in their patrols, the vulnerabilities in their collected technology, and the patterns of their rest cycles. Slowly he moved, shifting slightly to avoid the direct line of sight of any alien sensors. His hands were steady, though his body ached. Every movement mattered. Every breath counted. The stars above Erebus 7 shone cold and indifferent, but Alex felt a warmth inside him, the warmth of survival, of determination, of hope. He was one human, alone, battered and nearly broken, but he was not finished. They thought it was over, he thought. But they have no idea what happens when the human moves. And with that, the first spark of the counterattack was lit. The ruined outpost lay in silence as the Vrekkans rested in their makeshift command center. The stars above Erebus 7 seemed to glow brighter, casting long shadows across the wreckage. Beneath one pile of rubble, Commander Alex Rian shifted slightly, testing his strength. His muscles ached, his body screamed in protest, but his mind was sharper than ever. Alex knew that every second counted. The Vrekkans assumed they had nothing to fear, but humans had a way of surviving the impossible. He had survived worse than a night under rubble. Pain, fatigue, fear, these were tools as much as obstacles. They sharpened the mind, forced creativity, demanded cunning, and he was ready. His first move was simple: reconnaissance. Using the small handheld scanner he had found earlier, Alex slowly began mapping the immediate area. He marked the positions of Vrekkan guards, noting the patterns in their patrols and the points where their sensors overlapped. Each detail mattered. He memorized the location of their resting points, the gaps in their movement, and the weakest areas of their temporary base. Hours passed. The Vrekkans were oblivious, their confidence blinding them. Rilkor moved among his team, speaking quietly, reviewing stolen human data with a sense of satisfaction. "Everything is as expected," he said. "They are finished." But in a corner, one young scout tilted its head uneasy. It had sensed something. Small, faint, almost too subtle to notice. "Captain, there might be a trace. Faint, but alive," it reported, hesitating. Rilkor waved it off. "Traces appear in dust. Ignore it. Humans are weak." "They are finished." His words were sharp, final. The scout reluctantly turned away, leaving the observation unpursued. Alex smiled faintly beneath the rubble. They had underestimated him, as always. By late night, he had fashioned makeshift tools and traps from the debris around him. He rigged small motion sensors connected to tiny explosive charges salvaged from the outpost. Not enough to destroy a Vrekkan, but enough to cause confusion, panic, and distraction. Every step had to be precise. Every action measured. Movement in the shadows caught his eye. One of the Recon scouts had left the main area, moving alone. Its glowing eyes scanned the wreckage cautiously. Alex held his breath, ready. This was his first chance to test his traps. With careful timing, he triggered a small charge beneath a piece of rubble nearby. It erupted with a flash and a loud metallic bang. The Recon leapt back in surprise, emitting a low, startled growl. It tried to regain composure, but Alex had already moved another small device closer to the path it would take. Another explosion, and suddenly the scout was disoriented, confused, and panicked. Alex remained hidden, silent as a shadow, watching as the Recon struggled. It was not about killing yet. It was about sending a message. Humans were not as broken as the aliens believed. As the scout regained partial control, Alex extracted information using the scanner. He traced the aliens' movements, marking the command structures, communication lines, and patrol routines. Every piece of data was a step toward a larger goal, turning the Recon overconfidence into weakness. Hours turned into morning. The dim light of Erebus 7's rising sun cast the outpost in a pale glow. The Recons, exhausted from their looting, began to prepare for departure. They believed they had completed their mission. They had no idea the human beneath the rubble was already planning the first phase of retaliation. Alex moved slowly, inch by inch, toward the nearest supply crate. Inside, he found a small plasma cutter and a set of energy cells. His hands shook slightly from exhaustion, but he ignored it. Every tool, every scrap of equipment was a potential weapon. He carefully studied the cutter, testing it on a small piece of metal. Sparks flew, bright and dangerous, but he controlled them. The device was primitive compared to recon technology, but in skilled hands, even a small tool could become lethal. He also found a communication relay device. Though damaged, it might be repairable. If he could restore it, he could contact scattered human survivors, warn them, and coordinate a response. That thought filled him with renewed determination. Humans had faced overwhelming odds before. They had survived ambushes, betrayals, and disasters. And now, even here on a distant moon, they would fight again. By mid-morning, Alex had finished rigging his first set of traps. He moved silently among the debris, positioning sensors and small explosive charges near key areas of the alien camp. He also placed reflective shards to confuse their sensors, creating phantom movements that would distract and mislead them. Then came the moment he had been waiting for. A lone Recon ventured too close to one of the traps. Alex triggered the device. A bright flash lit the area, followed by a sharp ringing explosion. The Recon stumbled, disoriented, and the nearby squad rushed over, confused and panicked. Rilkor's voice cut through the chaos. "What is happening?" His eyes glowed with alarm as he realized the first signs of resistance. Humans, thought defeated, were moving. Alex stayed hidden, breathing steadily. He could see the Recon struggling, trying to restore order. He noted the communication lines, the weak points in their patrols, and the areas where their sensors were least effective. Each observation was a step closer to turning the tide. By evening, Alex had also begun repairing the communication relay. His hands were raw, his muscles screaming, but he worked with meticulous care. Finally, after hours of delicate adjustment, the device hummed softly. A weak signal emitted, barely detectable, but it was enough. He activated it, sending a simple distress code intended for any nearby humans. "This is Commander Alex Ryan. Humans are not defeated. Survivors respond." The first response came faintly, almost imperceptible. Another human voice, weak but alive, replied, "Alex? We hear you. We are still here. We will move." Alex smiled beneath the rubble. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Humans were scattered, yes, but they were not finished. The Recons, meanwhile, struggled to regain control. Confusion spread through their ranks. Small fires burned across the outpost as traps triggered in sequence. Equipment malfunctioned, sensors went haywire, and the aliens began to realize the humans were not as powerless as they believed. Rilkor's confidence wavered. He had never expected this. "Prepare defensive positions," he commanded. But it was too late. The humans had the advantage of surprise. Even one human, clever and resourceful, could create chaos among the seemingly invincible recons. As night fell again, Alex prepared for the next phase. He had gained critical information about the alien patrols, their technology, and their weaknesses. He had contacted survivors and established the first lines of communication. And most importantly, he had proven that humans could survive against overwhelming odds. He moved to a high vantage point within the ruins, scanning the horizon. The stars above were silent witnesses to his determination. He felt the ache in his body, the fatigue pressing down on him, but he also felt hope sharp and bright. They think we are broken, he thought. They think they have won, but they have not faced the human instinct for survival. The night was far from over. The Reckons would regroup and they would come looking for answers. But Alex was ready. Every trap, every device, every small advantage he had prepared would be used. Humans were unpredictable, and they thrived in adversity. And Alex, a single human beneath rubble and ruin, would remind the Reckons that survival was only the beginning. The moon's pale light stretched across the ruins of the outpost, illuminating twisted metal and shattered walls. Commander Alex Rian stood on a small ridge, scanning the horizon. The Reckons had not yet fully recovered from his first strike. Confusion lingered in their ranks, and the alarms still echoed faintly through the outpost. Alex knew this was the moment to act. The first strike had shown the aliens that humans were not defeated. But a single human could not hold back an entire army. He needed to unite the scattered survivors, give them hope, and organize a real counterattack. He activated the repaired communication relay, sending a clear, steady signal across Erebus 7. This is Commander Alex Rian. All humans who are alive respond. We are not finished. We will fight. Move to safe locations and prepare to act. A few moments of silence followed. Then faint signals began to reply, weak voices crackling with static but alive. Commander, we are here, one said. We thought we were alone. Another voice joined. We've been hiding. But we can move now. Alex allowed himself a small smile. The survivors were responding. Slowly, carefully, he guided them to safe zones within the ruins. These areas were shielded from Vrecken sensors and allowed humans to gather without being immediately detected. By nightfall, a small group of survivors had assembled. They were exhausted, hungry, and fearful, but they were alive. Alex addressed them, his voice calm but firm. You have survived because you are strong. You have survived because you refuse to give up. Now we fight together. The Vreckons think humans are finished. They are wrong. Very wrong. The group listened, eyes wide but filled with a spark of determination. Among them were engineers, scientists, and former soldiers. Each person brought skills that could be used to rebuild defenses, repair equipment, and create improvised weapons. Alex began organizing them. Some would repair communication devices. Others would prepare traps and hidden explosives, while a few would serve as scouts, gathering information about Recon movements. Every person had a role, every skill mattered. The first challenge was supplies. The Reckons had looted much of the outpost, but small caches remained hidden. Alex led a small team under the cover of darkness to retrieve these supplies. Using his knowledge of alien patrols and the traps he had already set, the group moved quickly and quietly. A brief encounter occurred when a patrol unexpectedly crossed their path. Alex signaled for the team to freeze. The alien paused, sensing something, but Alex had already anticipated this. Using a reflective shard, he created the illusion of movement behind a nearby wall. The Reckon paused, confused, and then moved on. The team exhaled quietly, tension slowly easing. Back at the safe zone, Alex distributed the supplies. Tools, rations, and small energy devices were handed out carefully. Engineers began repairing damaged human equipment, and the scientists examined the Recon data Alex had recovered, looking for weaknesses in alien technology. We can use their own systems against them, one engineer whispered, eyes bright with excitement. We just need the right trigger. Alex nodded. Exactly. And that's why we are here, to survive, to adapt, and to fight smarter than they expect. Over the next several days, the humans worked tirelessly. They set traps along patrol routes, repaired communication networks, and built small defensive positions within the ruins. Alex coordinated every action, moving between groups, ensuring that every plan was precise, every strategy calculated. The Vreckons, meanwhile, began to notice the unusual disruptions. Equipment malfunctioned, small fires broke out, and patrols reported strange energy readings. Rilkor's frustration grew. Humans, they should be gone. Why are these disruptions happening? He demanded. Scouts reported sightings of movement, brief flashes, shadows in unexpected locations. The Vreckons tightened their patrols, but each attempt to secure the area only played into Alex's plan. Every overreaction created new weaknesses. new opportunities for human action. One night, a small human team, guided by Alex, launched a covert strike on a Recon supply depot. They moved silently, planting charges and returning before the aliens realized what had happened. When the depot exploded, the Recons were stunned. Supplies vanished, systems were damaged, and their confidence weakened further. Alex knew this was just the beginning. The human resistance was still small, but every victory, no matter how minor, sent a message. Humans were not defeated, and they would not surrender. He gathered the survivors for a meeting. "We are few, yes," he said, voice strong, "but we are clever. We are resourceful. The Recons may have strength, but we have something they cannot predict: human will. And that will is stronger than fear, stronger than pain, and stronger than anything they have ever faced." The group nodded, determination growing in their eyes. They had seen Alex strike alone, they had seen the traps work, and now they understood. Survival was only the first step. Resistance was possible, and they were part of it. Over the next days, Alex expanded operations. Small teams moved silently through the ruins, sabotaging minor systems, creating confusion, and gathering intelligence. Every action was coordinated, every strike purposeful. The Recons, though powerful, were being manipulated into mistakes by a force they had underestimated. Alex also trained the humans to use the environment to their advantage. Broken walls, debris, and damaged machinery were turned into cover, obstacles, and weapons. Simple tools became deadly when used with precision. Every human learned to anticipate the Recons' movements, to exploit weaknesses, and to trust instinct as well as intelligence. As the human network grew, Alex realized that the fight was no longer about survival alone. It was about reclaiming control. He began planning a larger strike, one that could demonstrate to the Recons that humans were a force to be reckoned with. He gathered his leaders, engineers, scientists, and soldiers, and outlined the plan. "We will hit their central hub again," he explained. "This time we will disrupt their entire operation. It will not destroy them, but it will show that humans can and will fight back, and every human who survives will join the resistance. Our numbers will grow, and so will our strength." The team worked tirelessly, preparing devices, studying alien routines, and rehearsing movements. Alex moved among them, offering guidance, reassurance, and encouragement. The survivors were no longer frightened and passive. They were motivated, confident, and ready. Night fell again. The human teams were in position, hidden within the shadows of the ruins. Alex activated small devices to create phantom movements, confusing alien sensors. Explosions and alarms erupted at calculated intervals, forcing the Recons to split their forces. From a safe vantage point, Alex watched the chaos unfold. Recon squads were disoriented, their communication lines disrupted. The humans struck quickly and decisively, hitting supply caches, disabling minor systems, and returning safely to hidden positions. Every victory was small but critical. Every action spread hope among the human survivors and fear among the Recons. The balance had begun to shift. Humans were no longer merely surviving, they were fighting back. By dawn, the first coordinated human strike was complete. The Recons had suffered multiple disruptions, and their confidence had weakened further. Alex gathered the survivors again. "You have done well," he said. "This is only the beginning. We will continue to fight, and we will grow stronger with every action. The Recons underestimated us. They will pay for that mistake." For the first time since the attack, the human survivors felt a spark of triumph. They had been scattered, frightened, and defeated, but now they were united, coordinated, and ready. Alex had shown them that hope was not lost, that courage could turn the tide, and that humans, no matter how small in number, could face overwhelming odds and survive. As the sun rose over the barren moon, the survivors looked out across the outpost. Broken, damaged, and scarred as it was, it had become a symbol, a base from which humans would rise, regroup, and fight. Alex Ryan stood among them, silent and resolute. He had turned the first strike into a rallying point, and now the human resistance had taken its first real step. The Recons would soon learn that humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. And from the shadows, a single thought echoed in Alex's mind. This is only the beginning. The fight has just begun. A broken wall, his body tense, every sense alert. The Recons were no longer complacent. Confusion had spread among their ranks after the small traps and explosions. Now they were cautious, moving in pairs and scanning every shadow. Alex could feel the difference. The arrogance that had blinded them yesterday was gone. Fear and uncertainty had replaced it. But Alex did not feel fear. He felt opportunity. He had spent hours preparing, studying the alien patterns and setting traps. Now it was time to strike. He took a deep breath and activated the first device, a small, concealed explosive near a key energy junction in the outpost. The explosion was bright, loud, and precise. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and a wave of confusion swept through the Recon patrol. Rilcor's growl of frustration echoed through the area. "Find it, immediately!" he barked, his voice tight with anger. The Recons scrambled, trying to repair the systems, but every step they took seemed to trigger another minor disaster. Alex moved silently among the shadows, his hands steady despite fatigue. He used small mirrors and reflective metal scraps to confuse alien sensors. Every flash, every reflected beam created the illusion of movement, making it impossible for the Recons to know where the human was. A young Recon scout moved ahead alone, trying to assess the damage. Alex waited, counting the seconds. When the alien was within range, he triggered a trap. A small net of energy filaments shot up, wrapping around the Recon's limbs. The alien struggled, emitting a startled growl. Its partner rushed to help, only to find the net reinforced by another hidden device. Alex stepped out of the shadows, keeping low and careful. He approached the captured scout and used a portable energy cutter to disable the alien's communicator. If the Recons could not communicate effectively, they would be slower to respond, and Alex could exploit that. He crouched beside the scout and spoke quietly, almost whispering to himself. "You thought this was over, but you never understood humans." The other Recons were nearby, investigating, but Alex retreated before they could detect him. His movements were deliberate, precise, each one calculated to cause maximum confusion without risking capture. By midnight, Alex had successfully isolated the patrols from one another. Communication lines were damaged, sensors were misled, and minor explosions kept the aliens on edge. Each trap, each misdirection was a statement. Humans were not defeated. The most critical part of his plan remained: the command hub. From captured data, Alex knew where the Recon commander Rilcor had established his temporary base. It was heavily guarded with energy shields and reinforced walls. But Alex had something the Recons lacked: ingenuity. He studied the patrols and noticed a pattern. Every hour, a shift change occurred. During that brief period, the number of aliens in the command sector decreased, creating a narrow window of opportunity. Alex counted the minutes, preparing his next move. Using a combination of reflective shards, small devices, and improvised camouflage, he created a phantom presence near the entrance of the command hub. Sensors picked up multiple movements where there were none. Confusion spread inside the hub as the Recons scrambled to investigate. Alex moved quietly, taking advantage of the chaos. He climbed a series of broken walls and debris, getting closer to the command hub. From his vantage point, he could see Rilcor pacing inside, barking orders, frustrated and bewildered. The commander's confidence had evaporated. Now fear and uncertainty guided his actions. Alex's hands worked quickly. He set small charges along the hub's external energy conduits, carefully connecting them to improvised triggers. The charges were not enough to destroy the hub entirely, but they would disable key systems, communications, energy shields, and automated defenses. When the moment arrived, the brief window during the shift change, Alex triggered the charges. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the energy shields flickered. Rilcor's growl of rage filled the room. The Recons scrambled to repair the damage, but Alex was already retreating to a safer location. He observed from the shadows as the Recon command hub descended into controlled chaos. Communications were down, defenses were faltering, and panic spread among the ranks. Alex allowed himself a small smile. The first strike was successful. Humans were making their presence known, but Alex did not stop. He knew that the Recons would respond with force once they realized what was happening. He needed to maintain the advantage, keep them off balance, and prepare for the next phase. He moved quickly, setting smaller traps along the supply lines and patrol paths. Every piece of equipment he damaged, every alarm he triggered forced the Recons to react. They were strong, they were fast, but they could not anticipate the cunning of a single human operating with strategy and patience. In one corner of the outpost, A group of humans who had survived the initial attack watched from hiding. They had received Alex's signal earlier, and now they saw the results. Lights flickered, alarms rang, and explosions shook the ground. "They're back," one whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. "Alex, he's done it." The humans moved quietly, inspired by his actions. They began preparing their own improvised devices, using salvaged equipment and whatever resources remained. They had been scattered, defeated, and demoralized, but Alex's first strike had reignited hope. Meanwhile, inside the command hub, Real Core attempted to regain control. He barked orders, sending squads to check the perimeter and repair damaged systems. But each action led to more confusion. Sensors picked up false signals. Minor explosions kept the aliens alert and nervous, and the recon patrols were disoriented. Alex watched, calculating each move. He had no intention of facing the commander directly. Not yet. The goal was to weaken, confuse, and destabilize. Each small victory would set the stage for the larger resistance he planned to build. Hours passed. The outpost was alive with chaos. Alex continued moving through the shadows, setting small charges, disabling communication nodes, and observing the aliens' reactions. The Vrekans, powerful as they were, could not predict the humans' tactics. Each trap, each clever misdirection, forced them to act instinctively rather than strategically. At one point, a recon patrol discovered the remains of one of Alex's minor traps. They growled in frustration, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Confusion spread, and even Real Core began doubting the safety of the outpost. Alex paused, taking a moment to catch his breath. The ache in his body was sharp, and his muscles screamed for rest. But the human instinct, survival, creativity, and determination pushed him forward. He checked his traps, repaired minor damage to devices, and reviewed the patrol patterns again. Then he heard a faint sound, a weak human voice responding to his earlier communication. "Alex, we're ready. Waiting for your signal." Hope surged through him. This was no longer a one-man fight. Humans were scattered, yes, but they were alive, and now they were ready to act. The first strike had done more than damage the aliens. It had inspired humans to fight back. Alex allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, then returned to his work. The night was far from over. He had shown the Vrekans that humans could strike with intelligence, cunning, and precision. The first victory was small but critical. He whispered to himself, a promise and a warning. "This is only the beginning. You thought we were finished, but you have no idea what happens when humans fight back." Above, the Vrekans tried to restore order, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. They were strong, advanced, and intimidating, but they had underestimated one human's will, ingenuity, and determination, and that underestimation would cost them. The sky over SciFi-Prime shimmered with colors no human eye had ever seen before. Golden streaks of light wove between towering crystalline spires, and hovering ships of all shapes and sizes moved like swarms of glowing insects. The city buzzed with excitement, a mixture of anticipation and pride. Today was a day that would be remembered across the galaxy. The unveiling of the great interstellar explorer, a vessel designed to push the limits of exploration, and the presentation of its pilots. Crowds of alien spectators filled the wide terraces overlooking the central plaza. Each species was unique, a living testament to the diversity of life in the Andrelon galaxy. There were the Zephyrians, with their tall, slender bodies and shimmering skin that changed color with emotion. Beside them were the Trelvans, whose multiple limbs moved in perfect harmony, and their eyes could see far into the ultraviolet spectrum. A group of Clithians hovered above the plaza, their translucent wings flapping softly as they observed the ceremony. The plaza was alive with chatter, songs, and the occasional burst of telepathic energy as the aliens communicated in waves of thought. A stage had been set at the center, glittering under the light of SciFi-Prime's twin suns. Large holographic banners displayed images of the explorer, sleek, silver, and bristling with antennas and shields. Every species had sent their champions, skilled pilots, and explorers, ready to demonstrate their abilities to the galaxy. The aliens cheered as one by one, their pilots stepped forward. A Trelvan pilot executed a perfect somersault through the air, leaving trails of light behind. A Clithian floated in place, sending a wave of psychic signals that made the crowd feel a brief, joyous euphoria. The energy was electric, Everyone was waiting for the show, for the skill, for the brilliance of their own kind to shine. Then a new figure appeared. He was human. The crowd froze. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. He was ordinary in every way. Average height, plain clothes, no bright markings, no wings, no extra limbs. Just a man, a simple human with soft brown hair and calm brown eyes. In his hand he held a small device, glowing faintly. Nothing like the advanced instruments the other pilots carried. Whispers spread through the plaza like wildfire. "Who is he?" a Xiphorian asked. "Has he come from some unknown sector?" A Clithian murmured, its wings vibrating nervously. "No, that is a human," said a Trelvan, its multiple arms waving in disbelief. "They are fragile, weak. How could one survive in the trials ahead?" The man's name was Ethan Valor. He stepped forward with a quiet confidence that contrasted sharply with the energy of the crowd. He did not raise his arms to greet them, did not try to dazzle them with lights or psychic signals. He simply walked, steady and calm, placing one foot in front of the other until he stood at the center of the stage. The crowd's silence was deafening. Aliens who had never seen humans stared at him, some in confusion, some in skepticism, and some, for reasons they could not explain, with a sudden twinge of curiosity. Ethan looked around, meeting the eyes of several species, and then raised the small device in his hand. It pulsed softly, casting a gentle blue glow over his face. "I am here," he said simply. His voice was calm, but there was a strength in it that demanded attention. "I am ready to prove that humanity can contribute to the stars." Some of the aliens laughed quietly, dismissing him as naive. Others shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond to the species that had never been considered a serious contender in interstellar affairs. The master of ceremonies, a Xiphorian named Vale, stepped forward. His skin shimmered with shades of deep violet and gold. "And now," he announced, "we welcome a representative from Earth, the human Ethan Valor. Let us see what he can do." Ethan nodded once and turned to face the open sky, where the trials would begin. The first challenge was simple yet dangerous, navigating the nebula gauntlet, a treacherous field of floating rocks, plasma streams, and sudden gravitational shifts. Every pilot before him had instruments designed to withstand extreme forces, reflexes honed through years of practice, and bodies adapted to endure stress far beyond human limits. Ethan, however, had none of these advantages. What he had instead was observation, intuition, and quick thinking, qualities that humans had honed for millennia on a planet that tested survival every day. He stepped onto a small platform at the edge of the gauntlet. The other pilots already hovered in their ships, waiting for the signal. Some glanced at him, smirking. "This will be over before it begins," whispered a Trelvan pilot to a companion. The signal sounded, a bright flare of light that sent waves across the plaza. All the ships launched into the gauntlet, engines blazing. Ethan's device activated, unfolding into a simple hover unit, small but agile. He moved cautiously, observing the patterns of the plasma streams, the rotation of the asteroids, and the subtle gravitational anomalies that shifted unpredictably. While the alien pilots relied on raw speed and power, Ethan relied on observation. He timed his movements carefully, moving only when he saw the pattern of danger and opportunity. When a plasma burst surged suddenly toward him, he leaped aside, letting the obstacle pass beneath his hover unit. When a massive asteroid tilted toward the path ahead, he calculated its arc, predicting its movement before any machine could adjust. The crowd watched, tense at first, then increasingly astonished. Here was a human, a species they had underestimated, surviving in a place where even the most advanced aliens struggled. Minutes passed. Ships spun, swerved, and some collided, faltering in the chaotic gauntlet. Ethan pressed on, his focus unwavering. He did not panic when a massive rock veered unexpectedly. He adapted, using the device to pivot and gain speed at the exact moment needed. By the time he reached the final stretch, the aliens were no longer laughing. Whispers of disbelief turned to murmurs of admiration. "He is calculating," said a Clithian, wings fluttering in excitement. "He sees the patterns we miss." Ethan's final maneuver was simple yet brilliant. A massive plasma storm threatened to block the exit. While the alien pilots attempted to blast through it or swerve around, Ethan found a narrow passage between two plasma streams. With a precise adjustment, he slid through, emerging from the gauntlet unscathed and ahead of several competitors. The plaza erupted, not with laughter, but with stunned cheers. The aliens' initial doubt gave way to awe. A Zephorian elder whispered, "They are clever. Far cleverer than we imagined." Ethan stepped back onto the stage, breathing evenly. His clothes were unmarked, his device intact, and his calm expression unchanged. He did not boast, did not demand recognition. He simply stood as proof that humans were more than their fragile appearance. For the first time, the aliens truly saw humanity. Not as weak or insignificant, but as a species capable of resilience, intelligence, and unexpected brilliance. The cheers of the crowd were no longer skeptical. They were respectful, admiring, and for some even reverent. Vale, the master of ceremonies, stepped forward once more. His skin glowed a rich gold, reflecting his surprise and respect. "Ethan Valor," he said, his voice carrying across the plaza. "You have shown us that courage and intelligence are not bound to form or strength. Today, humans stand among the stars as equals." Ethan nodded once. He did not smile, but there was a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. This was only the beginning. He had proven that humans could survive where others doubted them, but the galaxy was vast, and challenges far greater than a nebula gauntlet awaited. As the crowd dispersed, still buzzing with excitement and speculation, Ethan looked out over the horizon of SciFi-Prime. The twin suns reflected off the crystalline towers, casting long shadows that stretched across the city. Somewhere beyond those suns, beyond the planets and stars, lay a galaxy full of mysteries, dangers, and discoveries. And Ethan Valor, a simple human, was ready to meet them all. The aliens would remember this day. They would remember the silence that fell when a human first stepped into the light, and the awe that followed.